Three sisters trapped under rubble. One desperate phone call to a number saved as emergency. But the voice that answers isn't 911. It's Vincent Crawford, a CEO who didn't know he had daughters. For 8 years, Rachel Bennett told her girls their father was dead. One collapsed house and one phone call shatter every lie. What really happened 8 years ago? And why did Rachel choose poverty over the man who would have given them everything? Before this story begins, subscribe to the channel and type "love" in the comments. A beautiful piece of good news may come your way very soon. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. The rain hammered against the cracked windows of the small rental house on Birch Street, like angry fists demanding entry. 8-year-old Clara Bennett sat on the threadbare couch, her arms wrapped protectively around her two younger sisters, 7-year-old Hannah and 7-year-old Zoe. The electricity had gone out an hour ago, and the only light came from the street lamp outside, casting long, dancing shadows across the peeling wallpaper. "I'm scared," Zoe whimpered, her tiny fingers clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, its ear torn and hanging by a thread. "The house is making weird noises." "It's just the storm, sweetheart," Clara whispered, trying to sound brave even though her own heart was pounding. She'd heard those noises before, creaking, groaning sounds that made the house feel alive and angry. Their mother, Rachel, had called the landlord 3 times this month about the cracks in the ceiling, the way the walls seemed to lean inward, the foundation that shifted whenever heavy rain came. But Mr. Peterson never fixed anything. He just collected the rent and ignored their calls. Hannah pressed closer to Clara, her dark curls plastered to her forehead with sweat despite the cold. "When is Mommy coming home?" "Soon," Clara promised, though she wasn't sure. Her mother worked 2 jobs, waitressing during lunch at Betty's Diner and cleaning offices at night. Sometimes she didn't get home until after midnight, exhausted and smelling of bleach and French fries, her hands red and raw from scrubbing. The house groaned again, louder this time, and a chunk of plaster fell from the ceiling, shattering on the floor near the television. All 3 girls screamed. "We should go outside," Hannah said, her voice trembling. Clara shook her head. "Mommy said we should never go outside when she's not home. It's not safe." "But Clara, the house..." The world exploded. It happened so fast that Clara's mind couldn't process it. One second they were sitting on the couch and the next everything was falling. The ceiling collapsed in a roar of splintering wood and crashing plaster. The walls buckled inward. Clara threw her body over her sisters as debris rained down on them, sharp and heavy and endless. She felt something slam into her shoulder, heard Zoe screaming, tasted dust and fear. Then silence. Terrible, suffocating silence. Clara couldn't move. Something heavy pinned her legs and her left arm throbbed with pain. She could feel Hannah beneath her, still breathing, thank God. But where was Zoe? "Zoe!" Clara coughed, the dust choking her. "Zoe, answer me." "I'm here," came a tiny, terrified voice from somewhere to the left. "Clara, I can't move." "Something's on my leg." "Don't move, okay? Just stay still. We're going to be okay." But Clara didn't know if they would be okay. The rain was still falling, now pouring through the destroyed roof and soaking them. She could hear sirens in the distance, but they seemed so far away. She tried to shift to free herself, but the beam across her legs wouldn't budge. "Hannah, are you okay?" Clara asked. "My arm hurts." Hannah sobbed. "I want Mommy." "I know, baby. I know." That's when Clara remembered the phone. Their mother's old phone, the one she'd left charging on the kitchen counter. Clara had seen it there before everything collapsed. If she could just reach it, if it was still there, still working. She stretched her right arm out, groping through the darkness and debris. Her fingers touched something smooth and rectangular. The phone. She pulled it toward her, her heart racing. The screen was cracked, but when she pressed the button, it lit up. 3% battery. Clara's hand shook as she unlocked it. She knew her mother's passcode, 1234, because Rachel always said she couldn't remember complicated numbers. The home screen appeared, and Clara quickly opened the contacts. There were only 3 numbers saved: Betty's Diner, their landlord Mr. Peterson, and one labeled simply, Emergency 911. Thank God, Clara thought. She tapped the emergency number, her finger trembling so hard she almost missed it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a deep, masculine voice answered. Hello? It wasn't 911. It wasn't the automated emergency system Clara had learned about in school. It was a real person, a man, and he sounded rushed and worried. Please, Clara gasped, her voice breaking. Please help us. Our house fell down. We're trapped. Me and my sisters, we can't get out, and it's raining, and... Whoa, slow down, the voice said, suddenly focused and intense. Take a breath, sweetheart. Tell me your name. Clara Bennett. I'm 8, and my sisters are 7 and 7, and our house collapsed and we're under the pieces and I don't know what to do. Clara, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You're being so brave right now. I'm going to help you, okay? First, tell me, are you hurt? Are your sisters hurt? I think we're okay. Hannah says her arm hurts. Zoe's leg is stuck. I can't move my legs. Where's your mother? Where's your father? We don't have a daddy. He's dead. And Mommy's at work. She doesn't know. Please, we need help. There was a strange sound on the other end of the line, like a sharp intake of breath. Then the man's voice came back, harder and more commanding than before. Clara, I need your address right now. 247 Birch Street in Riverdale, the blue house with the broken fence, but, Mister, who are you? This was supposed to be 911. My name is Vincent, the man said. And I promise you, Clara, I'm going to get you out of there. I'm already in my car. I'm coming to you right now. Do you understand? I need you to be strong for just a little bit longer. Can you do that for me? Something in his voice made Clara believe him. She didn't know why. She'd never talked to a stranger on the phone before, and her mother always warned her about trusting people she didn't know. But this man, Vincent, he sounded like he really cared. Like he would move heaven and earth to help them. Okay, Clara whispered. I'll try. That's my brave girl, Vincent said, and there was something in his voice that made Clara's chest feel warm despite the cold and fear. Now tell me about your sisters. What are their names? Hannah and Zoe. Hannah likes to draw and Zoe loves her stuffed rabbit. His name is Mr. Hoppy. Those are beautiful names. Vincent's voice had changed, gone softer somehow. Clara, I'm going to stay on the phone with you until I get there, okay? You're not alone anymore. I'm calling the fire department on another phone right now. They'll be there soon too. Just keep talking to me. Tell me about your family. What does your mother do? She works really hard. 2 jobs. She's always tired, but she tries to smile for us. She makes the best pancakes on Sunday mornings when she's not working. She says we're her whole world. I'm sure you are, Vincent said quietly. And your father, did your mother tell you what happened to him? She said he died before you girls were born. She doesn't like to talk about it. It makes her sad. There was another long pause. Then Vincent said, What color are your eyes, Clara? It was such a strange question that Clara almost laughed despite everything. Green, like Mommy's. Hannah and Zoe have brown eyes. Green, Vincent repeated, and his voice cracked slightly. God. Mr. Vincent, are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. I'm just driving very fast. I'm about 10 minutes away now. Can you still hear me clearly? Yes. The phone says 2% battery, though. That's okay. We're going to make it. Clara, I need you to check on your sisters again. Make sure they're still awake and talking to you. Can you do that? Clara called out to Hannah and Zoe, making sure they responded. Hannah was crying quietly, and Zoe was singing a soft, trembling song their mother always sang to them. You are my sunshine. The sound of her baby sister's voice made Clara want to cry, but she held it together. She had to be strong. Vincent said so. They're both awake, Clara reported. But Zoe sounds really scared. Tell her help is coming. Tell her that someone who cares about you very much is on his way, and he's not going to let anything happen to you. Tell her... Vincent's voice broke completely. Tell her that her daddy is coming to get her. Clara's blood went cold. What? But our daddy is dead. Mommy said... Clara, listen to me. Vincent's voice was urgent now, almost desperate. I can't explain everything right now, but I need you to trust me. I'm going to get you out of there. All three of you. And then we're going to figure this out together, okay? But I don't understand. 1% battery. The phone beeped. Clara, stay with me. I'm turning onto Birch Street right now. I can see the house. I can see the fire trucks. Clara. The phone went dead. Clara dropped it, her mind reeling. What did he mean? Their father was dead. Their mother had always said so, but Vincent had said. The sound of sirens filled the air, so close now. Voices shouted outside. Heavy footsteps crunched through debris. Hello? Is anyone in there? This is the Riverdale Fire Department. We're here, Clara screamed with every ounce of strength she had left. We're here. Please help us. I've got them, someone shouted. 3 children trapped in the center of the collapse. We need the rescue team now. Then another voice, deeper and more desperate than all the others. Get out of my way. Those are my daughters in there. Move. Clara heard arguing, heard someone trying to stop the man, heard him say, I don't care if it's dangerous. I'm going in. And then, through a gap in the debris above her, Clara saw a face, a man's face, streaked with rain and fear. He had dark hair and intense blue eyes that locked onto hers with such fierce protection that Clara's breath caught. Clara, the man, Vincent said, his voice breaking with emotion. I've got you. I've got all of you. You're safe now. He reached down and began lifting the beam off her legs with strength that seemed superhuman, fueled by pure desperation. Firefighters rushed to help him, and within minutes, Clara was free. Vincent pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, and she felt him shaking. Hannah, Zoe, he called, still holding Clara. Where are they? Here, Hannah whimpered, and firefighters were already moving toward her voice. The next several minutes were chaos. Men in yellow helmets carefully extracting Hannah and Zoe from the rubble, paramedics rushing forward with blankets and medical kits, someone pressing an oxygen mask to Clara's face. But through it all, Clara kept her eyes on Vincent, this man who had answered their call, this man who had come for them, this man who claimed to be their father. Clara? A familiar voice screamed from somewhere beyond the emergency vehicles. Clara! Hannah! Zoe! Oh God! My babies! Rachel Bennett pushed through the crowd of first responders, her diner uniform soaked with rain, her face a mask of terror. She saw her daughters being carried out of the ruins of their home, saw the paramedics examining them, and fell to her knees with a sob of relief. But then she looked up, and she saw him. Vincent Crawford stood there holding Clara in his arms, his expensive suit ruined and covered in dust and water. Their eyes met across the chaos, and the color drained from Rachel's face. No, she whispered. No. How are you here? Vincent's jaw clenched. He gently set Clara down, making sure a paramedic took her to the ambulance, and then he walked toward Rachel. He moved like a predator, controlled and dangerous, and Rachel stumbled backward. How am I here? Vincent repeated, his voice low and deadly. How am I here, Rachel? That's what you want to know? Not thank you for saving our daughters? Not I'm sorry I've been lying to you for 8 years? Rachel's face crumpled. Vincent, please. You told them I was dead, he said. And his voice rose now, sharp with rage and pain. You told them their father was dead. Do you have any idea what that phone call was like? Hearing my daughter's voice for the first time in 8 years? Hearing her call a stranger mister and telling me her daddy was gone? You don't understand, Rachel choked out. I had to protect them. I had to. Protect them from what? From me? I'm their father. Are you? Rachel's voice turned hard, defensive. You're Vincent Crawford, CEO of Crawford Industries. You live in a world of corporate espionage, hostile takeovers, and people who would do anything to get to you. What kind of life would that have been for them? A life with their father. A life where they didn't grow up in a house so unsafe it literally collapsed on top of them. The words hit Rachel like physical blows. She looked at the ruins of the house, at her daughters being loaded into ambulances, and her face crumbled completely. She sank to the ground, sobbing. Vincent stood over her, his chest heaving with emotion. For a long moment, he just stared at this woman he had once loved more than anything. This woman who had disappeared from his life without explanation, taking with her everything that mattered. Then he crouched down, his voice dropping to something quieter but no less intense. "We're not done, Rachel. Not by a long shot. But right now, your daughters, our daughters, need medical attention. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in that ambulance with them. I'm going to follow in my car. And when we get to the hospital and make sure they're okay, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about what happens next." Rachel looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "They don't know you. They don't even know what you look like. Please don't what? Be their father?" "That ship has sailed, Rachel. Clara already called me. She's already heard my voice. And whether you like it or not, I'm not going anywhere this time." He stood and walked away, heading toward a sleek black car that looked absurdly out of place on the rundown street. Rachel watched him go, her heart breaking into pieces she wasn't sure could ever be put back together. A paramedic helped her to her feet and guided her to the ambulance. Inside, her 3 daughters sat huddled together, wrapped in blankets, their eyes wide with shock and confusion. "Mommy," Clara said, her voice small and uncertain. "That man on the phone. The one who came to save us. He said he was our daddy." Rachel looked at her eldest daughter's face, so trusting, so hopeful, so utterly betrayed, and felt the last of her carefully constructed world crumble around her. "I know, baby," she whispered. "I know. And Mommy has a lot of explaining to do." The hospital waiting room smelled of antiseptic and bad coffee. Vincent Crawford sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, still covered in dust and dried rain, his $2,000 suit completely ruined. He didn't care. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Across the room, separated by what felt like an ocean of tension, Rachel Bennett sat with her head in her hands. Her supervisor from Betty's Diner had arrived an hour ago with a change of clothes, jeans and a sweater. But Rachel still looked like she'd been through a war, which Vincent supposed she had. The doctors were examining the girls now. Initial reports suggested Hannah had a minor fracture in her arm, Zoe had bruising and minor lacerations on her leg, and Clara had a dislocated shoulder that they'd already reset. All 3 were suffering from shock and would need to be monitored overnight, but they were alive. They were safe. They were his daughters. Vincent pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes, trying to process the impossible reality. 8 years ago, Rachel had vanished from his life without warning. 8 years of searching, of hiring private investigators, of lying awake at night wondering if she was alive or dead. And all that time she'd been raising their daughters he hadn't even known existed. "Mr. Crawford?" A doctor in blue scrubs approached, her expression kind. "The girls are stable and resting comfortably. We'd like to keep them overnight for observation, but I expect a full recovery. They're asking for their mother." Vincent nodded. "Of course, and—" He hesitated. "Have they asked about me?" The doctor's expression softened with sympathy. "Clara mentioned you several times. She seems quite taken with the man who answered her emergency call." Despite everything, Vincent felt a warmth spread through his chest. His daughter. His brave, strong daughter who had kept her sisters safe and had trusted him, a stranger's voice on a phone. Rachel stood and started toward the examination rooms, but Vincent caught her arm. "We need to talk. Now. Vincent, they need to see you're okay, and then they need rest. This hospital has a cafeteria. Give them 10 minutes with you and then meet me there. If you're not there in 30 minutes, Rachel, I swear to God I'll petition the court for custody before the sun comes up." Rachel's face went pale. "You wouldn't. Try me." She pulled her arm free and disappeared through the doors to the examination area. Vincent watched her go, his heart a confusing storm of rage, relief, and something that felt dangerously close to the love he'd thought was long dead. 28 minutes later, Rachel slid into the chair across from him in the hospital cafeteria. She'd pulled her dark hair into a ponytail, making her look younger than her 32 years. She'd been so beautiful once before life had worn her down. She was still beautiful now, Vincent realized with a pang, just in a different way. Harder. More tired. But the green eyes he'd fallen in love with were the same ones he'd seen in Clara's face tonight. "Talk," Vincent said flatly. Rachel wrapped her hands around a cup of terrible cafeteria coffee. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start with why you disappeared." "We were planning our wedding, Rachel. The invitations had been sent. And then one day I came home and you were just gone. No note. No explanation. Nothing. I left a note." "You left a piece of paper that said, 'I'm sorry, I can't do this,' and that's not an explanation." Rachel stared into her coffee. "I was pregnant. And you didn't think I deserved to know that? You don't understand. Your mother came to see me 2 days before the wedding." Vincent went very still. "What?" "Catherine Crawford," Rachel said, and there was bitterness in her voice now. In her designer suit and her pearls and that look on her face like I was something disgusting she'd stepped in. "She came to my apartment, that little studio on Fifth Avenue that you'd helped me afford, and she told me exactly what my life would be like if I married you. My mother had no right. She had every right to protect her son." Rachel interrupted. "That's what she said. That the Crawford family had enemies. That being married to you would put a target on my back. That any children we had would be used as leverage, as pawns in corporate warfare. She told me about the kidnapping attempts on you as a child, the death threats, the security detail you had to have everywhere you went." Vincent's hands clenched into fists. His mother. He should have known. Catherine Crawford had never thought anyone was good enough for her only son, but he'd believed, stupidly, naively, that she'd accepted Rachel, that she'd seen what he saw, a kind, intelligent woman who made him laugh and made him believe in something beyond profit margins and stock prices. "So you ran," Vincent said, "because my mother scared you." "No," Rachel said, and her voice broke. "I ran because she was right. Vincent, I just found out I was pregnant. I was terrified. And then your mother showed me articles, news stories about children of wealthy families who'd been kidnapped, hurt, killed. She told me that loving you meant endangering any child we might have. That's not how love works, Rachel. You don't run from it, you face it together. Easy for you to say, you grew up in that world. You had bodyguards and panic rooms and security protocols. I grew up in a trailer park with a single mother who worked herself to death to put food on the table. I didn't know how to navigate your world, Vincent. I was drowning in it even before I knew I was pregnant. So you chose poverty instead," Vincent said coldly. "You chose to raise my daughters in a house so structurally unsound that it collapsed on top of them. That's your idea of protecting them?" The words hit their mark. Rachel flinched as if he'd slapped her. "I did the best I could," she whispered. "I worked 2 jobs. I kept them fed and clothed and safe. They weren't safe tonight." "No." Rachel's voice was hollow. "No, they weren't. And that's on me. But Vincent, they've been safe from the kind of danger your mother warned me about. No one's tried to kidnap them to extort you. No one's threatened their lives to manipulate you in a business deal. They've had a normal childhood. They've had no father," Vincent cut in. "They've grown up believing I was dead. Do you have any idea how that feels? Clara told me on the phone that she didn't have a daddy. 8 years old, and she thinks her father abandoned her or died. What the hell were you thinking?" "I was thinking I was protecting them. By lying to them, by denying them their own history." "Yes." Rachel slammed her hand on the table, making the coffee slosh. Several people in the cafeteria looked over, but she didn't care. "Yes, I lied. Because I knew if I told them about you, they'd want to know you. They'd ask questions, and eventually someone would figure out who their father was, and all the danger your mother warned me about would come crashing down on their heads. So I told them you were dead. I told them you were a good man who loved them but died before they were born. And maybe that was wrong, but it kept them safe." "Did it?" Vincent asked quietly. "Because from where I'm sitting, you working yourself to exhaustion and them living in a condemned house doesn't exactly scream safe." Rachel closed her eyes. "I know. God, Vincent, I know. The landlord kept promising to fix things. And I kept believing him because the rent was cheap and I couldn't afford anything better, and I thought I had more time. I thought I could save up enough to move us somewhere better. But everything costs so much. And medical bills and food and clothes they keep growing out of, and she broke off, pressing her hands against her face. Vincent watched her shoulders shake with silent sobs and felt his anger falter. He didn't want to feel sympathy for her. She'd stolen 8 years of his children's lives from him. But seeing her like this, broken and exhausted and clearly at the end of her rope, he couldn't maintain the cold fury he wanted to feel. "Why didn't you ever reach out?" he asked, his voice softer now. "In 8 years you never once thought about telling me?" "Every day," Rachel whispered. "Every single day I thought about it. But I was scared, Vincent. Scared you'd hate me for leaving. Scared you'd try to take them from me. Scared your mother was right about the danger, so I just kept going, kept working. Kept telling myself that someday when they were older, when I'd saved enough money to feel secure, maybe then I could. But you never did." "No, I never did." They sat in silence for a long moment. Vincent's mind was racing. He had daughters. 3 beautiful, brave little girls who didn't know him, who thought he was dead, who had nearly died tonight while he sat in his penthouse office, completely unaware they existed. "The phone," Vincent said suddenly. "The number saved as emergency, that was my private line. How did you have that?" Rachel's expression turned almost shy. "I never deleted your number. I couldn't bring myself to. But I changed the name in my contacts to emergency because I told myself that if anything ever happened, if the girls were ever in real danger, I'd call you. And I gave Clara my passcode last year, after she turned 8. I told her that if there was ever an emergency and I wasn't there, she should call that number." "You saved my number for 8 years," Vincent said slowly, trying to understand. "You programmed my private line into your phone as an emergency contact. You gave your daughter access to it, but you never called." "I never needed to. Until tonight." Vincent leaned back in his chair, staring at this woman who had shaped his life without him even knowing it. "What happens now, Rachel?" She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "I don't know. What do you want to happen?" "I want to know my daughters," Vincent said immediately. "I want to be part of their lives. I want, God, Rachel, I want everything you stole from me." "I know." Her voice was small. "And you have every right to that. But Vincent, they don't know you. You're a stranger to them. A stranger who saved their lives, yes, but still a stranger. We can't just tell them you're their father and expect everything to be okay." "Then what do you suggest?" Rachel twisted her hands together. "Give them time. Let them get to know you gradually. And please, please don't make me the villain in this story. They're just children. They don't need to know about all the mistakes their mother made." Vincent studied her for a long moment. Part of him wanted to rage at her, to tell the girls everything and let Rachel face the consequences of her choices. But the rational part of his brain, the part that had built a billion-dollar empire through strategic thinking, knew she was right. Children needed stability, not more trauma. "Fine," he said. "We'll do this slowly. But Rachel, I want DNA tests. I want legal documentation. And I want custody arrangements established. You don't get to disappear with them again. I won't. I promise I won't. Your promises don't mean much to me right now." Rachel accepted that with a nod. "Fair enough." Vincent stood, exhaustion finally catching up with him. "I'm going to check on them, and then I'm going to a hotel. I'll be back first thing in the morning." "Vincent," Rachel called as he started to walk away. "Thank you for saving them, for coming when Clara called. Whatever happens next, whatever you think of me, thank you for that." Vincent looked back at her, at this woman who had once been everything to him and was now the mother of his children and not much else. "I didn't do it for you, Rachel. I did it for them." He left her sitting alone in the cafeteria and made his way back to the examination rooms. A nurse directed him to a private room where all 3 girls were sleeping in one large bed, curled together like puppies. Clara was in the middle, her arms around both her sisters. Someone had cleaned them up and dressed them in hospital gowns, and with their faces peaceful in sleep, they looked like angels. Vincent pulled up a chair and sat down, just watching them. His daughters, Clara with her dark hair and his green eyes, Hannah with Rachel's delicate features and his determined chin, Zoe the baby, with a face that was a perfect blend of both her parents. 8 years. He'd missed 8 years of this. First words, first steps, birthdays and Christmases and bedtime stories. The weight of that loss pressed down on his chest until he could barely breathe. Clara stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She saw him sitting there and went very still, clearly trying to remember who he was and why he was there. Then recognition dawned. "Mr. Vincent?" she whispered. "Hey, brave girl," Vincent said softly. "How are you feeling?" "My shoulder hurts a little, but the doctor gave me medicine." She was quiet for a moment then. "You came. You really came when I called." "Of course I did. I told you I would." "You said—" Clara hesitated, biting her lip. "On the phone before the battery died. You said you were our daddy." Vincent's heart clenched. "I did say that. And Clara, I know this is confusing and scary, but I need you to know something. I would never lie to you. Not about anything, but especially not about that. But Mommy said our daddy was dead. Your mommy made some mistakes. She was trying to protect you and she made some bad choices, but the important thing is that I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere. If you'll let me, I'd like to get to know you. You and Hannah and Zoe." Clara stared at him with those green eyes so much like his own. Then slowly she reached out her good hand. Vincent took it, his heart nearly breaking at the trust in that simple gesture. "Okay," Clara whispered. "I'd like that too." And sitting there in that hospital room, holding his daughter's hand for the first time in her life, Vincent Crawford made a silent vow. He would make up for every moment he'd missed. He would be the father these girls deserved. And nothing, not his mother, not Rachel's fears, not the dangers of his world, would ever separate them again. Outside, dawn was breaking over Riverdale, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day was beginning, a new chapter in all their lives. And for the first time in 8 years, Vincent Crawford felt something he'd thought was lost forever. Hope. 3 days after the collapse, Rachel sat in a conference room at Crawford Industries, feeling completely out of place. The building was all glass and steel and modern architecture, the kind of place where people wore designer suits and spoke in professional tones. She'd come in her best outfit, a simple dress she usually wore to church, and still felt like a child playing dress-up. Vincent's assistant, a kind woman named Patricia who was probably in her 50s, had greeted her warmly and offered her coffee in a real china cup. Now Rachel sat alone, waiting, her hands trembling slightly as she held the expensive cup and saucer. The door opened and Vincent walked in, followed by 2 men in suits. Lawyers, Rachel realized with a sinking feeling in her stomach. This was it. He was going to fight her for the girls. "Rachel," Vincent said, his tone professional and distant. "These are my attorneys, James Morrison and David Park. I asked them here because we need to formalize our arrangement regarding Clara, Hannah, and Zoe." Rachel set down her coffee carefully, afraid she'd drop it with her shaking hands. "Vincent, please." "Before you panic," Vincent interrupted, sitting down across from her. "I want to make something clear. I'm not trying to take the girls away from you. Despite everything, they love you. You're their mother. But Rachel, we need legal agreements in place. Custody arrangements, financial support, educational planning, medical decisions, all of it." Rachel blinked back, tears of relief. You're not going to fight me for them?" "No." Vincent's expression softened slightly. "Well, not unless you give me a reason to." "The DNA tests came back this morning. They're definitely mine. Clara and Hannah are fraternal twins. Did you know that?" "Twins?" Rachel stared at him. "But they were born a year apart. Apparently you had what's called superfetation. You were pregnant with Clara when you conceived Hannah. It's extremely rare. The doctor said it's about 1 in a million. Rachel's mind reeled. Twins. Her 2 oldest daughters were twins, conceived a month apart but born nearly a year apart. She'd never known. How had she never known? "Zoe," Vincent continued, "is from a later pregnancy, obviously. The genetic markers show she's also mine. So legally I have 3 daughters, and legally I have rights. But Rachel, I'm not interested in destroying you or punishing you. I'm interested in what's best for the girls." "What does that mean?" Rachel asked quietly. James Morrison, the older of the two lawyers, pulled out a stack of documents. Mr. Crawford has proposed the following arrangement. Joint legal custody, with primary physical custody remaining with you. He'll have liberal visitation rights, which initially will be supervised as the children adjust to knowing him. He'll cover all medical expenses, educational costs, and provide substantial monthly child support. Additionally, he's secured you and the girls a safe, stable home. A home? Rachel repeated. Vincent slid a folder across the table. It's a 4-bedroom house in Maplewood, good schools, safe neighborhood, yard for the kids to play in. The deed is in your name, Rachel, mortgage paid in full. You'll never have to worry about a landlord again. Rachel opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were photos of a beautiful 2-story house with a white picket fence and a maple tree in the front yard. It was the kind of house she'd only dreamed about, the kind she'd driven past and imagined what it would be like to live there. I can't accept this, she whispered. Vincent, this is too much. It's not nearly enough, Vincent said flatly. My daughters nearly died because you couldn't afford a safe place to live. I'm not letting that happen again. This isn't charity, Rachel. This is me taking care of my children. But the child support alone is $15,000 a month, Vincent said, which I'm told is standard for someone of my income level with 3 children. You can use it for whatever they need. Clothes, food, activities, college savings, I don't care. But they will never go without again, understand? Rachel stared at the amount on the paper. $15,000 per month. That was more than she currently made in 6 months working 2 jobs. I don't know what to say, she managed. Say you'll sign the agreement, Vincent replied. Say you'll let me be part of their lives. Say you'll never run from me again. I won't. I promise I won't, but Vincent... She looked up at him, needing him to understand. They're still adjusting. Clara is fascinated by you, but Hannah and Zoe are confused. They keep asking me why I lied about you being dead. I don't know how to explain it in a way that makes sense to them. Then tell them the truth. Tell them you were scared and made a mistake. Children understand fear, Rachel. What they don't understand is continued deception. He was right. Rachel knew he was right. But admitting her failures to her daughters felt like the hardest thing she'd ever have to do. There's one more thing, Vincent said. He pulled out another document. This is a restraining order against my mother, Catherine Crawford. She's not to come within 500 feet of you or the girls. Ever. Rachel's eyes widened. Vincent, she's your mother. She's the reason you ran, Vincent said coldly. She's the reason I missed 8 years of my daughter's lives. I've already informed her that she's cut off from the family trust and is no longer welcome in my life. If she tries to contact you or the girls, you call the police immediately and me. I'll handle it. That seems extreme. She threatened you, Rachel. She manipulated you into abandoning me and keeping my children from me. There is no amount of extreme that's too much for that. My father agrees, by the way. He's appalled by what she did. Rachel hadn't thought about Vincent's father, Richard Crawford. He'd always been kind to her in the brief times they'd met. How is your father? Disappointed in my mother. Thrilled about the girls. He wants to meet them when you're ready. Their grandfather, Rachel said softly. They have a grandfather. And you have... Do you have siblings? I don't think I ever asked. One sister, Veronica. She's a doctor in Seattle. I called her yesterday. She's flying out next week to meet her nieces, aunts, uncles, grandparents, an entire family tree that Rachel's daughters had never known about because of her fear and her choices. The weight of what she'd done pressed down on her chest. When can I see them? Vincent asked, and for the first time since she'd entered the conference room, his professional mask cracked. I know you want to take things slow, but Rachel, I need to see them. It's been 3 days since the hospital. 3 days of knowing they exist and not being with them. They're at my friend Linda's apartment, Rachel said. We've been staying there since the house, since everything happened. I was going to move us into a motel this weekend, but if this house is really, if it's really ours. The keys are in the folder, Vincent said. You can move in today if you want. I've already had it cleaned and stocked with basics, food, toiletries, new beds, and furniture. The girls' rooms are decorated neutrally, but I figured they'd want to choose their own colors and themes. There's money in the account for that. Rachel felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Why are you being so generous? After everything I did. Because I'm not angry at you anymore, Vincent said quietly. I was. God knows I was furious when I first realized. But Rachel, you were 24 when you ran. Pregnant, scared, manipulated by someone you should have been able to trust. Did you make the wrong choice? Yes. Did it hurt me more than I can express? But I understand why you did it. And holding on to that anger doesn't help our daughters. So I'm choosing to let it go and move forward. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not. But you have it anyway. Rachel wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Can you come to Linda's tonight for dinner? I'll talk to the girls this afternoon. Really talk to them. Tell them the truth about everything. And then maybe you could come by around 6. We could all have pizza together or something. Vincent's face transformed with such naked hope that Rachel's heart ached. Yes, I'd like that very much. And Vincent, thank you for the house, for the support, for being understanding. I know I don't deserve any of it, but thank you. Vincent stood, signaling the meeting was over. You don't need to thank me for taking care of my children, Rachel. It's what a father does. It's what I should have been doing for the last 8 years. That afternoon, Rachel sat on Linda's lumpy couch with all 3 girls snuggled around her. She'd asked Linda for privacy, and her friend had gone out to give them space. Now Rachel looked at her daughter's expectant faces and felt her heart breaking. You remember Mr. Vincent? She started. The man who saved you from the house? The one who said he was our daddy, Clara said immediately. Yes. And girls, I need to tell you something very important. Mr. Vincent, he is your daddy, he really is. Hannah's eyes went wide. But you said Daddy was dead. You said he died before Zoe was born. I know, and I need to tell you why I said that, even though it was a lie. Rachel took a deep breath. Before any of you were born, I was going to marry Vincent. We loved each other very much. I was pregnant with all 3 of you, which was a surprise because I didn't know about Hannah and Zoe at first, only Clara. But then Vincent's grandmother came to see me. We have a grandmother? Zoe interrupted, her 4-year-old mind latching onto the exciting detail. You do, but she's not a nice grandmother. She said some really mean, scary things to me. She told me that Vincent's family had enemies, people who might want to hurt me or hurt any babies we had. And I got so scared that I ran away. I left Vincent without explaining, and I never told him about you girls because I thought I was protecting you. But Mommy, Clara said slowly, that doesn't make sense. Mr. Vincent seems really nice. Why would anyone want to hurt us? Because Vincent is very rich and very important, Rachel tried to explain. Sometimes bad people try to hurt rich people's families to get what they want. And I was so scared of that happening that I just ran away. And I kept running. And I told you girls that your daddy was dead because I thought that was safer than you knowing the truth. So you lied, Hannah said, and there was hurt in her voice. You lied to us our whole lives. I did, and I'm so sorry. It was wrong. I was wrong. I should have been brave enough to trust that Vincent would keep you safe. Instead, I made a terrible mistake, and I hurt a lot of people because of it. Silence fell over the small living room. Clara was processing, her 8-year-old brain trying to understand the complicated adult emotions. Hannah looked betrayed, her arms crossed over her chest, and Zoe just looked confused. Is he a good daddy? Zoe finally asked. Rachel thought about Vincent answering that desperate phone call, driving through the night to save children he didn't know, standing in the rain lifting debris with his bare hands, fighting to get to them. Yes, she said honestly. I think he's going to be a very good daddy. Does he want to know us? Clara asked. More than anything in the world. He wants to be part of your lives. He wants to take you places and get to know you and be your father. But only if you want that too. I won't force you. I want it, Clara said immediately. He saved us, and he kept talking to me on the phone when I was scared. I like him. Hannah was slower to respond. What if his mean grandmother tries to hurt us? She can't, Rachel said. Vincent made sure of it. She's not allowed to come near us ever. And if she tries, Vincent will stop her. He'll protect you. Promise? Hannah's voice was small. I promise. And girls? Vincent has asked if he can come have dinner with us tonight. Would that be okay? All three girls nodded, even Hannah, though she still looked uncertain. Okay, Rachel said, hugging them close. Okay. But first I have something to show you. She pulled out the folder Vincent had given her, with the photos of the house. This is where we're going to live. Vincent made sure we'd have a safe, beautiful home, and it's ours. Forever. The girls crowded around, exclaiming over the pictures. Clara's eyes lit up when she saw the big backyard. Hannah loved the reading nook in one of the bedrooms. Zoe just kept saying, pretty, pretty, and clapping her hands. Can we see it? Can we go now? Clara begged. Rachel smiled through her tears. Yes, let's go see our new home. And then tonight your daddy is coming to visit. As they gathered their few belongings and headed out to see the house that would change their lives, Rachel sent a text to Vincent. They know the truth. Come at 6. They're ready to meet their father. His response was immediate. Thank you. I'll be there. That evening at exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang at the new house. The girls had spent the afternoon exploring every room, choosing their bedrooms, running in the backyard. Now they all froze, looking at Rachel with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. That's him, Rachel said softly. Remember, he's just as nervous as you are. Clara ran to the door before Rachel could stop her and pulled it open. Vincent stood on the porch holding 3 wrapped gifts and looking absolutely terrified. Hi, Clara said. Hi, Vincent replied, his voice rough with emotion. You came. I'll always come when you need me. That's what daddies do. Clara studied him for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand just like she had in the hospital. Come in. Mommy ordered pizza, and we want to show you our rooms. Vincent looked over Clara's head at Rachel, and the gratitude in his eyes made Rachel's throat tight. She nodded, and Vincent stepped into the house, their house, for the first time. Hannah and Zoe peeked out from behind Rachel's legs. Vincent crouched down to their level, making himself smaller and less threatening. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Zoe. I'm Vincent. I'm your dad. And I know this is all really weird and confusing, but I want you to know that I'm not here to change anything or make things scary. I'm just here to get to know you, if that's okay. Did you bring presents? Zoe asked, eyeing the wrapped packages. Vincent laughed, and it was a wonderful sound. Yes, I brought presents. Want to see? As the girls tore into the gifts, art supplies for Hannah, a new stuffed rabbit for Zoe, and a science kit for Clara, Rachel watched Vincent transform. The powerful CEO disappeared, replaced by a man who was simply trying to be a father. He sat on the floor with his daughters, helped them open packages, listened to their excited chatter, and looked happier than Rachel had seen him in years. Later, after pizza and presents and stories, after the girls had gone to bed in their new rooms with new sheets and new nightlights, Rachel and Vincent sat on the front porch watching the sunset. Thank you, Vincent said quietly, for today, for telling them the truth, for giving me this chance. It's what I should have done 8 years ago, Rachel replied. Maybe, but you did it now. That's what matters. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Vincent said, I meant what I told them. I'm not here to change everything or take over. I just want to be part of their lives. I know. And Vincent, I think you're going to be an amazing father. Vincent smiled, and in that smile, Rachel saw a glimpse of the man she'd fallen in love with all those years ago. The man she'd been too afraid to trust. The man who was now the father of her children and, perhaps, could someday be something more than just co-parent. But that was a story for another day. For now, as the sun set over their new beginning, Rachel allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. 6 weeks into their new life, and Clara Bennett Crawford was beginning to understand what it meant to have a father. It meant Saturday morning pancakes where Vincent tried to flip them in the air and usually missed, sending pancake batter splattering across the kitchen while all 3 girls dissolved into giggles. It meant someone showing up at every school event, sitting in the front row with a proud smile that made Clara's heart feel too big for her chest. It meant bedtime stories read in a deep, soothing voice that made even the scary parts of fairy tales feel safe. It meant having someone who kept his promises. Vincent had been careful, just as he'd said he would be. He visited 3 times a week at first, always asking Rachel's permission, always leaving when the girls seemed tired. But gradually, those visits stretched longer. He started picking them up from school on Wednesdays. He took them to the park on Saturday afternoons. He came to Clara's science fair and Hannah's art show and Zoe's preschool performance, where she forgot all her lines but received a standing ovation from her father anyway. And slowly, carefully, the girls began to call him Dad. Well, Clara and Zoe did. Hannah was still holding back, still processing the hurt of 8 years of lies. She was polite to Vincent, even warm sometimes, but she kept a careful distance that Clara could see pained him. Now, on this crisp early December afternoon, Clara sat at the kitchen table doing homework while Rachel prepared dinner. Through the window, she could see Vincent in the backyard with Hannah and Zoe, helping them rake the fallen leaves into enormous piles, just so they could jump in them. Zoe's laughter carried through the glass, pure and joyful. "He's good with them," Rachel said softly, following Clara's gaze. "Yeah," Clara agreed. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetie. Why did you really run away? I know you said you were scared, but Dad doesn't seem scary at all. He seems really nice." Rachel set down the wooden spoon she'd been using to stir pasta sauce. She came and sat across from Clara, her expression serious. "Your dad is nice. He's one of the best men I've ever known. But Clara, when I ran, I wasn't running from him. I was running from his world." "His world?" "Vincent is very wealthy, very powerful, and in that world people can be cruel and dangerous. His mother, your grandmother Catherine, she told me terrible things about what could happen to me and to you girls. About kidnappings and threats, and people who would hurt you just to get to your father's money. But that never happened," Clara pointed out logically. "We lived in that awful house that fell down and nobody tried to kidnap us or hurt us." Rachel's face crumpled slightly. "I know, and looking back now, I realized that I was so afraid of one kind of danger that I put you in a different kind. The house, the neighborhood, me working so much I could barely keep my eyes open, that was dangerous too. Just in a different way. Do you regret it? Leaving Dad?" Rachel was quiet for a long moment, watching Vincent through the window as he lifted Zoe onto his shoulders so she could reach the leaves in the lower branches of the maple tree. "I regret hurting him. I regret the years he missed with you girls. But Clara, if I hadn't run, if I hadn't made those choices, you 3 wouldn't exist exactly as you are now, and I can't regret that." Clara thought about this, her 8-year-old mind working through the complicated logic. "Mom, do you still love him?" Rachel's head snapped around, her eyes wide. "Clara, you look at him sometimes the way Hannah looks at her art supplies, like you want something but you're not sure you're allowed to have it. That's very observant of you," Rachel said carefully. "And complicated. Your father and I have a lot of history, and not all of it is happy. Right now we're focused on being good parents to you 3. That's all." But Clara had seen the way her mother's face softened when Vincent laughed, had noticed how Rachel always dressed a little nicer on days Vincent was coming over, had caught them talking late into the evening after the girls went to bed, their voices low and intimate through the walls. The back door burst open and Zoe tumbled in, covered head to toe in leaf bits, with Vincent right behind her looking equally disheveled. "Daddy, again," Zoe demanded. "I think we need to clean up first, Princess," Vincent said, brushing leaves out of her hair. "Your mom made dinner and I'm pretty sure she doesn't want leaf salad." "I could make that rule," Rachel said with a smile. "No leaves at the dinner table." Vincent caught her eye and held it for just a moment too long. Clara saw it, that flash of something deeper between them. Then Hannah came in and the moment passed. Dinner was lively and warm, full of stories and laughter. Vincent told them about a disastrous business meeting where his PowerPoint presentation had somehow been replaced with his assistant's vacation photos. resulting in very confused investors seeing pictures of Patricia at Disney World instead of quarterly earnings reports. The girls laughed so hard that Zoe nearly choked on her spaghetti. "That's not even the worst part," Vincent continued, grinning. "I was so flustered that I kept trying to explain the earnings using Mickey Mouse as a metaphor. I'm pretty sure several people thought I'd had a breakdown." "Did you lose money?" Hannah asked, speaking directly to Vincent for maybe the first time all evening. "Actually, no. Turns out everyone was so charmed by the mistake that they signed the deal anyway. Patricia got a raise." After dinner, Vincent started to gather his things to leave, as he always did. But Clara saw the way he hesitated, the way his eyes lingered on Rachel. "Dad?" Clara said. "Could you stay? We were going to watch a movie and you haven't seen our favorite yet." Vincent looked at Rachel, asking silent permission. She nodded, and something in his expression softened with relief. They all piled onto the large couch. A new one Vincent had insisted on buying when he saw Rachel's old one with its broken springs. Clara wedged herself between her parents, with Hannah on Rachel's other side and Zoe sprawled across Vincent's lap. The movie was an animated adventure that the girls had seen a dozen times, but watching Vincent experience it for the first time made it feel new again. Halfway through, Clara felt her mother's hand reach across her to brush against Vincent's arm. She saw her father turn, saw the look that passed between them, tender and uncertain and full of possibility, and Clara felt something settle in her chest, something warm and right. This was what a family felt like. 3 days later, Rachel was at the grocery store when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Ms. Bennett, this is Principal Morrison from Oakwood Elementary. I'm calling about Clara and Hannah." Rachel's heart jumped into her throat. "What happened? Are they okay?" "They're fine physically. But there was an incident today. A woman claiming to be their grandmother tried to pick them up from school." "What?" "She had identification showing she was Catherine Crawford. She said Mr. Crawford had asked her to collect the girls and take them to his office. But when we called Mr. Crawford to confirm, he became extremely agitated and said, under no circumstances was his mother to have contact with the children. Ms. Bennett, I need to inform you that we've filed a police report. This woman violated the custody agreement and the restraining order on file." Rachel's hands shook so badly she could barely hold the phone. "Where are the girls now?" "Mr. Crawford is here. He arrived about 10 minutes ago and is with them in my office. He asked that you come to the school immediately." Rachel abandoned her shopping cart and ran to her car. The 15-minute drive to Oakwood Elementary felt like an eternity. Her mind raced with terrible possibilities. What if the principal hadn't been diligent? What if Catherine had somehow gotten to the girls? What if... She screeched into the parking lot and sprinted into the building. In the principal's office, she found Vincent sitting on the floor with Clara and Hannah. Both girls pressed against him while he spoke in a low, soothing voice. Zoe's preschool was in a different building, thank God, so she'd been spared this scare. "Mommy!" Hannah cried when she saw Rachel, launching herself into her mother's arms. Rachel caught her, holding her tight. "Baby, are you okay? What happened?" "A lady came," Hannah said, her voice muffled against Rachel's shoulder. "She said she was our grandmother and that Daddy wanted us to come with her. But the teacher said we had to wait in the office, and then Daddy came. And he was so angry." Rachel looked at Vincent over Hannah's head. His face was pale, his jaw clenched so tightly she could see the muscle jumping. But when he spoke to the girls, his voice was gentle. "I wasn't angry at you two. I was angry at the situation. You did everything right. You went with your teacher, you didn't go with someone you didn't know, and you were so brave." Principal Morrison cleared her throat. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Crawford, I want to assure you that we take security very seriously. The only reason Mrs. Crawford got as far as the classroom was because she had identification and seemed to know specific details about the children. But at no point were Clara and Hannah in her custody. We followed protocol exactly." "I want to see the security footage," Vincent said, his voice hard. "And I want copies for the police." "Of course." Detective Morrison, no relation, is already reviewing it. Rachel's head was spinning. "Vincent, what did she want? Why would she try to take them?" Vincent stood, his expression dark. Because my mother doesn't accept that she's lost control. I'm going to handle this, Rachel. I promise you she will never get near our children again. How can you promise that? She violated a restraining order in broad daylight at an elementary school. Because... Vincent stopped, running his hand through his hair in frustration. Because I'm going to take away the only thing she cares about more than control, her reputation and her standing in society. My lawyers are already drawing up papers to have her declared mentally unfit to manage her own affairs. It's the only way to keep her from using her resources to hurt us. Rachel stared at him. Vincent, that's your mother. She tried to take my daughters, Vincent said, and his voice was steel. She could have traumatized them. She violated a court order. She's proven she's willing to go to any lengths to destroy what we're building. So yes, Rachel, I'm going to do what I should have done 8 years ago when she drove you away. I'm going to stop her. Permanently. Later that night, after the girls were finally asleep, Zoe blissfully unaware of the day's drama, Clara and Hannah exhausted from fear and stress, Rachel and Vincent sat in the living room. Vincent had refused to leave, insisting he needed to be there in case Catherine tried something else. I can't believe she did that, Rachel said for the 100th time. I can't believe she actually went to their school. She's desperate, Vincent said. When I cut her off from the company and the trust, I took away her power. She's been making calls, trying to turn my board members against me, spreading rumors about you. Today was her trying to regain control the only way she knows how. By taking the girls. Yes. Rachel wrapped her arms around herself. I was so scared, Vincent. When the principal called, all I could think was that 8 years ago, Catherine told me this exact thing would happen, that people would come after our children. And she was right. Except she's the person who came after them. Vincent moved closer, his hand finding hers. She was never right, Rachel. She was manipulating you. She told you lies to drive you away from me because she couldn't stand that I'd chosen you over her approval. And now she's trying the same manipulation on our daughters. But it's not going to work. I won't let it. What happens now? Now my lawyers file for the competency hearing. We present evidence of her harassment, the restraining order violations, the attempted contact with the girls. We get a court order giving me power of attorney over her affairs. And we make sure she's somewhere she can't hurt anyone, a care facility probably, with supervision. That sounds like prison. It's protection, Vincent corrected. For her and for us. Rachel, my mother needs help. This kind of obsessive behavior, this disregard for consequences, it's not rational. She needs psychiatric evaluation and treatment. But most importantly, she needs to be kept away from you and the girls. Rachel nodded slowly. The girls asked me tonight if all grandmothers are mean. I didn't know what to tell them. Tell them that their grandfather Richard is wonderful and can't wait to meet them properly. Tell them that their Aunt Veronica is flying in next week and is bringing presents. Tell them that family is complicated, but we choose to surround ourselves with people who love and protect us. Is that what we are now? Rachel asked softly. A family? Vincent looked at her, really looked at her, and Rachel saw everything in his eyes. The hurt, the hope, the love that had never quite died. I'd like us to be. Not just for the girls. Rachel, I know we have history and complications and 8 years of pain between us. But these last 6 weeks, being part of their lives, being around you again, it's made me remember why I fell in love with you in the first place. Rachel's breath caught. Vincent, I'm not asking for anything right now, he said quickly. I know you need time. I know trust has to be rebuilt. But I want you to know that I'm here. Not just as the father of your children, but as someone who never stopped caring about you. Someone who would very much like a second chance if you're ever ready to give it. Rachel felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know if I deserve a second chance. Then we're even, because I spent 8 years wondering if I deserved one too. Vincent reached up and gently brushed away her tears. We both made mistakes, Rachel, but we have 3 beautiful reasons to try to get it right this time. Before Rachel could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. Mommy? Daddy? I can't sleep. They pulled apart quickly as Hannah appeared in the doorway, her stuffed elephant clutched in her arms. Vincent opened his arms, and for the first time, Hannah went to him without hesitation, climbing into his lap and burying her face against his chest. "I keep thinking about that lady," Hannah whispered. "What if she comes back?" "She won't," Vincent promised. "I won't let her. You're safe, Hannah. You and Clara and Zoe. I promise you're safe. Do you promise like regular people promise or like Daddy promises?" Vincent's expression went soft. "What's the difference?" "Daddy promises don't break," Hannah said simply. Vincent held her tighter. "Then I, Daddy, promise." "Okay. Okay." Rachel watched them together. This man who had missed so much and this little girl who was finally letting herself trust him, and felt something shift in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope, dangerously like the beginning of healing. Outside, Detective Morrison sat in an unmarked car watching the house. He'd been assigned protective detail after the incident at the school, just until Catherine Crawford could be located and detained. In the morning, a judge would issue a warrant for her arrest for violating the restraining order. But Catherine Crawford was nowhere to be found. She'd disappeared after leaving the school, and no one, not her husband, not her staff, not her friends, knew where she'd gone. And that, Detective Morrison thought grimly, was what worried him most. The gala was Vincent's idea. A charity event, he'd explained to Rachel 2 weeks after the school incident, to raise money for children's housing stability, in honor of Clara, Hannah, and Zoe, and all the children who've experienced unsafe living conditions. "Vincent, that's generous, but it's also strategic," he'd admitted. "My mother has been in hiding since the school incident. She hasn't responded to the court summons. She's not at her house, not at any of her usual places. But Rachel, if there's one thing my mother can't resist, it's a society event where she can maintain her image. If we make this gala big enough, public enough, she'll come out of hiding. And when she does, the police will be waiting. You want to use a charity event as a trap?" "I want to end this," Vincent said firmly. "I want the girls to feel safe. I want you to feel safe. And the only way that happens is if Catherine is finally held accountable." So now, on a glittering Saturday evening in mid-December, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was filled with New York's elite. Rachel had been nervous about attending. She'd never been to anything like this, had no idea how to navigate the world of designer gowns and champagne flutes and people who casually mentioned their vacation homes in the Hamptons. But Vincent had hired a stylist who'd helped her choose a deep green dress that made her eyes shine. He'd held her hand in the car on the way over, and now as they stood at the entrance to the ballroom, his hand on the small of her back, he whispered, "You look beautiful, and you belong here just as much as anyone else." The girls were at home with Patricia, Vincent's assistant, who'd volunteered to babysit. They'd wanted to come, had been excited about the party, but Vincent had been firm. "This is a grown-up event, but I promise I'll bring you back fancy desserts." Now, as Rachel surveyed the room, she spotted several people who looked vaguely familiar from magazines and social media. Vincent introduced her to business associates, donors, board members. Everyone was polite, though Rachel caught the curious glances and knew exactly what they were thinking. Who is this woman with Vincent Crawford? "Ladies and gentlemen," the master of ceremonies announced from the stage. "Please welcome our host for the evening, CEO of Crawford Industries and tonight's primary benefactor, Vincent Crawford." Vincent squeezed Rachel's hand once, then made his way to the stage. He looked different in his tuxedo, more like the powerful businessman from magazines and less like the man who made pancakes on Saturday mornings. But when he spoke, his voice was warm and genuine. "Thank you all for coming tonight. 6 weeks ago, I received a phone call that changed my life. A little girl trapped under the ruins of her collapsed home, calling for help. That little girl is my daughter, Clara. And that phone call introduced me to 3 incredible children who are the reason we're all here tonight." The room was silent, every eye on Vincent. Clara, Hannah, and Zoe lived in a house that wasn't safe because their mother was working 2 jobs and still couldn't afford better. They're not alone. Thousands of children in New York City live in substandard housing, homes with lead paint, homes with faulty wiring, homes that could collapse at any moment. Tonight, we're raising money to change that, to provide safe, stable housing for families who need it. Because no child should have to dial 911 from under the rubble of their own home. Applause erupted. People reached for their wallets, their checkbooks. The energy in the room shifted to something purposeful and generous. Rachel felt tears in her eyes. Vincent had taken their trauma, their story, and turned it into something that could help others. He was stepping down from the stage when it happened. The ballroom doors opened with a bang and Catherine Crawford swept in like an avenging angel. She was dressed in designer black, her hair perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked nothing like a woman who'd been in hiding, nothing like someone facing arrest warrants. "What a touching speech, Vincent," she called out, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "So noble, so generous. Did you tell all these lovely people the truth about that phone call? About how that woman," she pointed at Rachel, "manipulated you? How she ran away 8 years ago and only came back when she needed your money?" Vincent's face went hard as stone. "Mother, you need to leave now." "Oh, I don't think so. You see, I've spent the last 2 weeks gathering evidence. Evidence of Ms. Bennett's real past, her real motives. And I think everyone here deserves to know the truth." Catherine pulled out a folder, her eyes glittering with malicious triumph. "Did you know Rachel Bennett has a juvenile record? Sealed, of course, but money can unseal almost anything. Theft, Vincent. She stole from her employer when she was 17. And her mother? Convicted fraud. It runs in the family." Rachel felt the blood drain from her face. Yes, she'd stolen food from the grocery store where she worked when she was 17, because her mother was sick and they had no money and she was desperate. It had been a stupid, desperate act that had been expunged from her record. And yes, her mother had been convicted of writing bad checks. But that had nothing to do with who Rachel was now, who she'd tried to be for her daughters. "Catherine," Vincent said, his voice deadly calm as he moved toward his mother, "you need to stop talking right now." "Why? Because I'm telling the truth? This woman is a con artist, Vincent. She trapped you with those children, probably not even yours, and now she's living in a house you bought, spending your money, worming her way back into your life." "They are mine," Vincent cut her off. "DNA tests confirm it, and Rachel never asked me for money, never asked for the house, never asked for anything. I offered because they're my daughters and I want to take care of them. How convenient that they called you that night. How convenient that their house collapsed right when they needed a rich father to rescue them. Are you seriously suggesting Rachel orchestrated a building collapse?" Vincent's voice rose with anger now. "That she purposely put her children in danger just to manipulate me? I'm suggesting she's capable of anything to get what she wants. Like you?" The new voice came from the side of the room. Richard Crawford, Vincent's father, stepped forward from where he'd been standing with a group of investors. "Like you, Catherine, who drove away your son's fiancée with threats and lies, who tried to kidnap your own granddaughters from school, who violated a restraining order and is currently facing arrest warrants." Catherine's perfect composure cracked slightly. "Richard, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I understand that our son has found happiness with a woman he loves and with 3 beautiful grandchildren. I understand that you're so consumed with control that you can't accept it. And I understand that I should have stopped you 8 years ago when you went to Rachel and threatened her." Vincent's head snapped toward his father. "You knew?" "Not at the time," Richard said. "But I found out later. Catherine confessed it to me one night after too much wine. She was proud of it, Vincent. Proud that she'd protected you from what she called an unsuitable match. I should have told you then. I should have helped you find Rachel. That's on me, and I'm sorry." "This is ridiculous," Catherine snapped. "I won't stand here and be accused." "Mrs. Crawford." 2 plainclothes police officers moved through the crowd. Detective Morrison showed his badge. "You're under arrest for violating a restraining order and attempted custodial interference. You have the right to remain silent." Catherine's eyes went wide. She looked around the ballroom at all the influential people watching her downfall, and something in her expression crumpled. "Vincent, Vincent, please. I'm your mother. I was only trying to protect you." "By traumatizing my daughters?" Vincent's voice was hard. "By trying to destroy the woman I love? By making me believe I was alone for 8 years? No, Mother. You were trying to control me. And it's over. As the police led Catherine away, the ballroom erupted in whispers. Rachel stood frozen, Vincent's words echoing in her mind. The woman I love. He'd said it publicly, in front of everyone. He'd claimed her, defended her, chosen her over his mother's approval all over again. Vincent returned to her side immediately, his hands finding hers. Are you okay, Rachel? I'm sorry. I thought she'd come, but I never expected. Did you mean it? Rachel interrupted. What you said about loving me? Vincent's eyes softened. Every word. Rachel, I never stopped. Even when I was angry, even when I thought I'd never see you again, I never stopped loving you. The things she said about my past. I don't care about things you did when you were 17 and desperate. I care about the woman you are now. The mother you've been to our daughters. The person who worked herself to exhaustion, trying to give them a good life with the limited resources you had. Around them, the crowd was dispersing, giving them privacy, but Rachel barely noticed. She was staring at Vincent, at this man who had defended her, chosen her, loved her despite everything. I want that second chance, she said suddenly. The one you offered. I want to try again, not just for the girls, but for us. Vincent's face transformed with such pure joy that Rachel's breath caught. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Are you sure? I'm sure. Vincent, you saved us. Not just from the collapsed house, but from everything. You've given us a home, stability, safety. But more than that, you've given us love. And I know, I never stopped loving you either. I was just too scared to admit it. You're not scared anymore? Rachel looked around at the ballroom, at the people who'd witnessed Catherine's breakdown, at the life Vincent inhabited that had once terrified her. I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm more scared of losing you again, of our daughters growing up without seeing what real love looks like, of spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. Vincent kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. Let's go home. Let's go home to our daughters and tell them that we're going to be a real family, all of us together. Vincent, there's still a gala happening. All these people can celebrate without us, Vincent said firmly. My family is more important than any fundraiser. Besides, I promised Clara, Hannah, and Zoe that I'd bring them fancy desserts. I'm not breaking that promise. They collected an absurd amount of petit fours and chocolate truffles from the dessert table, making the catering staff laugh at their enthusiasm. Then they slipped out of the plaza and into Vincent's car, leaving the gala and the drama and Catherine's public arrest behind them. On the drive home, Vincent held Rachel's hand tightly, occasionally lifting it to press a kiss to her knuckles. The city lights glittered around them, beautiful and full of possibility. I need to tell you something, Vincent said quietly. About my mother. The competency hearing is scheduled for next week. My lawyers think we have a strong case. But Rachel, if she's declared incompetent, she'll be placed in a psychiatric facility for evaluation and treatment. That's my mother. And part of me feels guilty about it, even though I know it's necessary. Then I'll be there with you at the hearing, Rachel said. You don't have to do this alone. Even after what she said tonight? Especially after what she said tonight. Vincent, your mother is unwell. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains it. And you're doing the right thing by getting her help, even if she can't see it that way. That takes courage. Vincent's eyes were suspiciously bright. How did I get so lucky? To find you again, to have another chance. We both got lucky, Rachel corrected. We got 3 amazing daughters who refused to give up on the people they love. We got a second chance that most people never get. We got each other back. When they arrived home, the house was blazing with lights. Through the windows they could see Patricia in the living room, reading to Zoe while Clara and Hannah built something elaborate with blocks. That's our family, Vincent said softly. That's our life. Rachel squeezed his hand. Then let's go live it. They walked in together, arms loaded with fancy desserts, and 3 little girls' faces lit up like Christmas morning. Clara ran to hug them both. Hannah jumped up and down, demanding to see the treats. Zoe asked if they'd met any princesses at the party. And as Vincent scooped up his youngest daughter and Rachel wrapped her arms around her 2 oldest and Patricia smiled from the doorway, everything felt exactly right. Not perfect, life was never perfect, but right. True. Real. This was what family felt like. This was what love looked like. And this time, nothing would tear them apart. 3 months later, on a perfect spring morning, Clara woke up to the sound of laughter drifting up from the kitchen. She lay in bed for a moment, just listening. Her dad's deep chuckle, her mom's lighter laugh, Hannah singing off-key while Zoe provided enthusiastic backup vocals, the clatter of pans and the smell of pancakes and coffee. This was home now. This was family. And every single morning Clara woke up grateful for the night their house had collapsed. Because sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. She padded downstairs in her pajamas to find controlled chaos in the kitchen. Vincent was attempting to flip pancakes while Zoe helped by throwing chocolate chips into the batter at random intervals. Rachel was making eggs and bacon while Hannah set the table with exaggerated care, making sure each fork was perfectly aligned. "Morning, sleepyhead," Vincent said when he spotted Clara. "Pancakes will be ready in 5 minutes." "I helped," Zoe announced proudly. "I put in lots of chocolate." "I can see that," Clara said, eyeing the pancake batter that was more chocolate than actual batter. "Those are going to be interesting." "Interesting is one word for it," Rachel said with a smile. She looked different these days. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She laughed more, worried less. And the way she looked at Vincent, Clara had seen that look in movies, in books. It was love. Real, grown-up love. Her parents weren't officially back together yet. They were taking it slow. Vincent still maintaining his own apartment in the city even though he spent most nights at the house in Maplewood. But Clara could tell it was only a matter of time. She'd caught them kissing in the hallway last week when they thought all the girls were asleep. She'd seen the way her dad looked at her mom when she wasn't paying attention, like she was the most precious thing in his world. "Girls," Vincent said, as he served up pancakes that were indeed more chocolate than anything else, "I need to talk to you about something." Hannah immediately looked worried. "Is Grandmother Catherine coming back?" "No, sweetheart. She's getting help at a special hospital and she'll be there for a long time. This is good news, I promise." All 3 girls looked at him expectantly. Vincent glanced at Rachel, who nodded encouragingly. "So, you know how your mom and I have been spending a lot of time together?" Vincent started. "You mean like every day?" Clara said. "Yes, like every day. Well, we've been talking and we think we'd like—" He stopped, suddenly looking nervous. Clara had never seen her father nervous before. "Rachel, help me out here." Rachel laughed and came to stand next to him. "What your dad is trying to say is that we'd like to be a real family. Officially. He's asked me to marry him and I said yes." For a moment there was shocked silence. Then Zoe screamed with delight. Hannah burst into tears, happy ones, Clara realized quickly. And Clara felt her own eyes fill with tears as she launched herself at both her parents, hugging them tight. "You're getting married?" Hannah sobbed. "Like for real married? And Daddy will live here all the time?" "For real married," Vincent confirmed, holding his family close. "If you girls are okay with that. I know it's been a big adjustment having me in your lives. I don't want to push anything you're not ready for." "Are you kidding?" Clara said, her voice muffled against his chest. "We've been waiting for this since forever, or at least since we knew you existed. Does this mean we can call you Daddy instead of Dad?" Zoe asked. "Hannah still calls you Vincent sometimes and it's weird." Hannah blushed. "I was just getting used to it." "You can call me whatever you're comfortable with," Vincent said gently. "There's no rush, Hannah. We have all the time in the world now." After breakfast, those chocolate-heavy pancakes were actually delicious, Clara decided. Vincent said he had a surprise. He made them all get in the car, refusing to tell them where they were going. They drove for about 20 minutes into a neighborhood Clara didn't recognize. Vincent pulled up in front of a large building with a colorful playground in front. A sign read, New Beginnings Family Housing Center. What is this? Rachel asked. This is what we raised money for at the gala, Vincent explained. It's been in development for years, but your story, our story, gave it new momentum. It's a transitional housing facility for families escaping domestic violence, homelessness, or unsafe living conditions. 40 apartments, plus a community center with childcare, job training, and support services. He turned to look at his family. And I'd like to name it after you three. The Clara, Hannah, and Zoe Center for Family Housing. If that's okay with you. Clara felt tears spring to her eyes again. Really? You'd name it after us? You're the reason it exists. The night you called me, Clara, you weren't just saving yourselves. You were saving every family who'll live here, every child who'll grow up safe because of this place. That deserves to be remembered. They got out of the car and walked through the facility. It was beautiful, bright and clean, with apartments that had full kitchens and multiple bedrooms. The community center had a library, a computer lab, and a large playroom where children were already playing under the supervision of trained staff. A woman approached them, a toddler on her hip and 2 older children trailing behind her. Mr. Crawford, I'm Janet Rodriguez. My family is one of the first residents here. It's wonderful to meet you, Ms. Rodriguez. I just wanted to say thank you. 6 months ago, we were living in our car. My ex-husband was dangerous and I had nowhere safe to go with my kids, but this place, it gave us a fresh start. My oldest just started school. I got a job through the training program, and for the first time in years, my children sleep without fear. She looked at Clara, Hannah, and Zoe. You must be the girls this place is named after. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to make that phone call. Thank you for sharing your story so other families could be helped. Clara didn't know what to say. She'd just been scared that night, just trying to save herself and her sisters. She'd never imagined it would lead to something like this. You're welcome, she finally managed. I'm glad you're safe now. As they toured the rest of the facility, meeting other families and seeing the difference the center was making, Clara understood something important. Bad things happened sometimes. Houses collapsed. Mothers made mistakes. Grandmothers did terrible things, but those bad things didn't have to be the end of the story. They could be the beginning of something better. That afternoon, back at home, Rachel gathered the girls in the living room. There's something else we need to talk about. Your dad and I have been discussing the wedding. Ooh, can I be a flower girl? Zoe asked immediately. You can all be in the wedding, Vincent said. But we were thinking, instead of having a big ceremony with lots of people we barely know, we'd like to do something small, just family. Your grandfather Richard, your Aunt Veronica, a few close friends, and you three, of course. We'd like you to be part of the ceremony, Rachel added, not just watching, but participating. Because this isn't just your dad and me getting married, it's all of us becoming an official family. Like a family wedding? Hannah asked. Exactly like that. The wedding was planned for a month later, in the backyard of the house in Maplewood under the maple tree that had survived the autumn leaves and winter snows and was now blooming with spring flowers. It was intimate and perfect. Just 20 people who truly mattered. Clara, Hannah, and Zoe wore matching lavender dresses that they'd picked out themselves. Rachel wore a simple white dress that made her look like a princess, and Vincent wore a suit but ditched the tie halfway through, making everyone laugh. The ceremony was officiated by Judge Morrison, the same judge who had handled Catherine's competency hearing, and had become a friend to the family. He spoke about second chances and the resilience of love and the power of family. Vincent and Rachel, Judge Morrison said, you've traveled a difficult road to get here. You've faced obstacles that would have destroyed most couples, but you've chosen forgiveness over bitterness, hope over fear, love over everything else. And in doing so, you've created something beautiful, not just for yourselves, but for your 3 remarkable daughters. He turned to the girls. Clara, Hannah, Zoe, please come forward. The 3 girls stood in front of their parents, suddenly serious. Today your parents are making vows to each other, Judge Morrison said, but they'd also like to make vows to you. Vincent, Vincent crouched down so he was eye level with his daughters. His voice was thick with emotion. Clara, Hannah, Zoe, I promise to always be there when you call. I promise to protect you, guide you, and love you unconditionally. I promise to show up for every moment that matters and most of the moments that don't. I promise to be the father you deserve every single day for the rest of my life. Rachel knelt next to him. And I promise to never let fear make my decisions again. I promise to be honest with you, even when the truth is hard. I promise to show you what it means to be strong and to ask for help when you need it. I promise to love you and your father with everything I have. And we promise, Vincent and Rachel said together, to show you what a real family looks like. Together. There wasn't a dry eye in the small gathering. Richard Crawford was openly weeping. Aunt Veronica was sniffling into a handkerchief. Even Judge Morrison had to pause to collect himself. Then Clara did something that hadn't been planned. She reached out and took her parents' hands, and Hannah and Zoe followed suit, creating a circle. We promise too, Clara said, her 8-year-old voice surprisingly steady. We promise to be good daughters, to remember that nobody's perfect, but everybody's trying, to love each other even when we're mad, and to never ever forget that we're lucky. Because some kids don't get families like this. Some kids don't get second chances, Hannah added. Some kids don't get happy endings, Zoe finished. But we do, Clara said. We got all of that. After the official ceremony, after the rings were exchanged and the kiss that made Zoe giggle and cover her eyes, the small group celebrated with cake and music and joy. As the sun set over the backyard, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Vincent and Rachel danced to a slow song while their daughters watched. They look happy, Zoe observed. They are happy, Hannah said. We all are. Clara thought about the night that had changed everything. The rain and the collapsing house and the desperate phone call, the fear and the pain and the uncertainty. If someone had told her then that it would all lead to this, to a father who loved them, to a mother who'd found her smile again, to a family that was whole and real and theirs, she wouldn't have believed it. But here they were, living proof that sometimes life breaks you open so you can heal stronger than before. What are you thinking about? Grandfather Richard asked, sitting down next to Clara on the porch steps. Just how lucky we are, Clara said, how everything worked out. Richard smiled. It worked out because all of you were brave enough to fight for it. Your mother was brave enough to admit her mistakes, your father was brave enough to forgive. And you, little one, you were brave enough to make that phone call when everything was falling apart. I was just scared. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. And Clara, you saved more than just yourself that night. You saved your whole family. As darkness fell and fairy lights twinkled in the trees, the celebration continued. Neighbors who'd become friends stopped by to offer congratulations. Patricia arrived with an enormous gift basket. Even Detective Morrison came by to wish the family well. Later, after the guests had gone and the girls were in their pajamas, the whole family piled onto the big couch, the same couch where they'd watched movies together, where they'd had important conversations, where they'd built their new life one moment at a time. Tell us a story, Daddy, Zoe requested, snuggling into Vincent's side. What kind of story? A true one. About us. Vincent looked at Rachel and she nodded. Okay. Once upon a time there was a man who thought he'd lost everything. He worked and worked, but none of it meant anything because his heart was broken. Then one night his phone rang. And on the other end was the bravest little girl he'd never met, asking him to save her and her sisters. That's me, Clara said. I'm the brave girl. You absolutely are. And when that man heard her voice, something inside him woke up. He realized that he hadn't lost everything after all. He'd just been waiting. Waiting for the right moment to become the person he was always meant to be. What person was that? Hannah asked. A father, Vincent said simply. A husband. A man who put family first. And you know what the best part of this story is? What? All three girls chorused. It doesn't end. This story keeps going every single day. Every breakfast and bedtime, every scraped knee and school play, Every argument an apology and I love you. This story is our life, and it's just beginning. Rachel leaned her head on Vincent's shoulder, watching their daughter's sleepy faces. It's a good story. It's the best story, Vincent agreed, because it's ours. And no matter what challenges come, no matter what obstacles we face them together, as a family. Forever? Zoe asked, her eyes drifting closed. Forever, Vincent promised. That's what family means. Forever. One by one, the girls fell asleep, Zoe first, then Hannah, and finally Clara, fighting to stay awake until the very end. Vincent and Rachel sat there in the quiet darkness, their children sleeping peacefully around them, and felt the weight and the wonder of the life they'd built. Happy? Vincent asked softly. Terrified, Rachel admitted. But happy. So incredibly happy. Good, because there's something I haven't told you yet. Rachel's eyes widened. What? I've been talking to my lawyers about adoption. Adoption? The girls still have your last name, Bennett. I'd like them to be Bennett Crawfords officially, to have both our names, but only if you're okay with that. Rachel felt tears slip down her cheeks for what felt like the 100th time that day. I'm more than okay with that. I think it's perfect. Yeah? Yeah. They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer, neither wanting to disturb the sleeping children enough to carry them to bed. This moment was too precious, too perfect to end. Vincent, Rachel said eventually. Thank you. For what? For answering the phone, for coming to save us. For giving us a second chance, for loving them, loving us so completely. For everything. Vincent pressed a kiss to her temple. Rachel, you gave me 3 incredible daughters. You gave me a family. You gave me a reason to be better than I was. I should be thanking you. Then let's call it even and let's promise each other something. Anything. Let's promise that no matter what happens, we'll never let fear win again. We'll face everything together. We'll choose love, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I promise, Vincent said solemnly. From ruins to refuge, from broken to whole, from lost to found, I promise you, Rachel Bennett Crawford, all of it. And as the moon rose over their home in Maplewood, over the family that had been broken and rebuilt stronger, that promise hung in the air like a benediction. A promise that would carry them through all the years to come, through teenage dramas and college applications, through grandchildren and gray hair, through every joy and sorrow that life would bring. Because they'd learned the most important lesson of all, the strongest foundations aren't built on perfection. They're built on forgiveness, on second chances, on the courage to love even when you've been hurt. They're built on a little girl's desperate phone call in the darkness, on a father who answered, on a family that refused to give up, on ruins that became refuge, on love that conquered everything.